People, I just got done watching The Killer on Netflix. Let's try that again. Wow. I just got done watching The Killer on Netflix, the latest David Fincher directed film. And wow. I'm not going to go over the movie itself. I mean, you can have your own opinions on if you like it or not. But, you know, every once in a while, there comes a film. It's not just this huge bombastic soundtrack and action-packed sounds everywhere. Everything is mixed so crazily, whatever. This isn't one of those films. This is a very slow burn, very drawn out. Some might even consider it kind of boring because you're really just in the head of this contract killer. The character himself doesn't really say much. You do hear his inner monologue, yes. So at least you have that to kind of go along with those moments where there's no dialogue whatsoever. But because he is a contract killer, there's so much waiting involved. So you have to have patience in order to do it right. But because of that, because there is little dialogue, because you are basically in the mind of this killer, going along with him, his day-to-day routines, just watching him eat, sit in a car, do some yoga in an abandoned building. Because of all these things, it's the sound design and it's the music that plays a pivotal role in just guiding this movie along. Now, I know this is pretty nitpicky on my part, but I don't know about you, but it kind of bugs me when the mixing is done in such a way where not everything is placed in 3D space exactly how the shots are set up. One person is over here, and then you're looking at the back of them. But the dialogue is always coming out of the center channel, no matter what, and that kind of thing. Or if a TV is over here, and you can hear it just in the scene because it's just playing as background noise. And it's always in one spot throughout the entire scene, no matter where the shot is placed. But The Killer, there are so many scenes where a particular sound is happening, and with each and every shot, that sound is in a different spot according to where this shot has been placed. Now, obviously, that takes more time. It takes more time to choreograph those sounds to be in different places depending on where you're looking as the audience. Another movie that comes to mind that I honestly haven't heard this level of sound design detail before was the movie Gravity. And Gravity does exist with a Dolby Atmos soundtrack on a Blu-ray copy, but it's only the Diamond Luxe version, which is completely sold out, or you could pay, hundreds of dollars for it on eBay if you really want to. Although, just FYI, if you download it from Apple onto your Apple TV 4K, that version is in Dolby Atmos. But not since Gravity have I heard sound design and mixing done to this level of detail. I mean, since I'm an audio nerd, of course, this is what helped me become so engaged throughout the entire movie, despite the plot and the storyline being very slow paced. But me, I was just glued to every shot because I was paying attention to where all these different sounds were traveling depending on where the shot was. A fountain that was just bubbling in the background. It's over here. But then the shot changes, so now it's over here. Oh, but then it's just slightly over here now. If you're an audio nerd like I am, this is the movie that you've been waiting for quite some time. Or that you should maybe demo to some of your other audio nerd friends. There are also some other scenes where Michael Fassbender's character is listening to music on earbuds. And every time they show a shot from his perspective, the music is playing full bandwidth. You can hear all the frequencies from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. But the first scene in particular where he's waiting in an abandoned building and he's trying to wait for somebody who's arriving across the way, he only has the earbud in his right ear. But if it's a shot of him, the killer, it's just, you can barely hear the music. And most of the frequencies have been taken out, especially the low end, because that's honestly all you would hear if you happen to be standing next to them listening to their music. But then every single time that it cut to his perspective, the music was coming out of the surround right because he was only listening to it in his right ear. Man, I could see some people finding it a little bit jarring, though, those particular scenes, because it kept cutting to full bandwidth music that's loud. And then when it cut to something else, then it was real quiet. And then it was loud again when it was his perspective again. So I can see that that is probably jarring to some people. But to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in this guy's head. The audience is being taken on this journey through sound and through music. So just this sense of immersion, not in a like fancy Dolby Atmos way, because, which I also need to address the fact that it was done on my preamp, it just said PCM 5.1 because that's how it was mixed. You can see it on the title page on Netflix that it just says 5.1. Now I know David Fincher is not opposed to Dolby Atmos. He's done other things in Dolby Atmos before, but I wonder if because of the level of detail that he went to with placing all the sounds depending on where the shot was, he was like, ugh, look guys, I'm just gonna do this one in 5.1 because then all I have to deal with is 5 channels plus subwoofer. So it would have been just that much more difficult to mix something like this with this level of detail with, 7.1.4. Had I wished that he would gone that little extra mile? Sure, but I don't think any less of David Fincher because of it. Because like I said, I was still completely immersed. And yes, my system was still up mixing it, so I could still hear some stuff in the surround backs, even though technically 5.1 doesn't include any surround backs. But just every little thing, there's so many scenes or like transitions from one scene to another where he's traveling, and every single time it shows him in the car, walking down a street, from a different perspective in the car, just outside of the car. But it wasn't just about the sound effects that were in your face or just out in the open, It was music that happened to be playing in a house that he was searching around. Also traveling around the soundstage depending on where the shot was, or even just ocean waves. But not only was it an amazing sense of immersion with music that happened to be playing in the same room, but it was also the original score done by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which nowadays David Fincher seems to use them every time he makes a new film. But even that was just faded in and blended in just so seamlessly with everything else that was happening on screen. But as I'm thinking about it, I don't recall if I had ever experienced such an immersive audio mix from David Fincher before. It makes me want to go back and watch all of his other movies and see if that level of detail was reached before, just regarding the sound design. But yeah, honestly, if you just want to be washed over and surrounded by some really good, thoughtful sound design, then The Killer is a must watch. Again, it's not because like, oh wow, it's such a subwoofer workout and there's bullets whizzing by. No, it's not that kind of movie. Everything about it is so subtle, but because of that, it makes you really appreciate the attention to detail. And because he's a contracted killer, he's going all over the world to various locations, and all of these different locations have different sounds that are native to that area. So all of these things just happening around you, it's like the sound design and the music was a character in and of itself. And those kinds of films I just gush over. I love it. And just icing on the cake, the music that Michael Fassbender's character listens to is great. He listens to The Smiths and Depeche Mode and Portishead, among others. So that was pretty cool to listen to as well. But yeah, it's not every day that a film like this comes out, because I know there are others out there like me who appreciate really good sound design, and this is one of them. So if you have seen it, did you notice what I'm talking about? And if you haven't seen it and you want to watch it now, please pay attention to just how meticulous the sound design is. David Fincher must have been sitting in with the sound design team during every session just to make sure that everything was placed so precisely in the soundstage. It is one of the best, subtle, yet realistic attention to sound design that I've heard in a long time. So that's it. That's all I had to say. I just needed to shout from the rooftops, so to speak, after just watching that. So yeah, go watch it if you haven't. And if you already have, maybe watch it again if you didn't really pay attention to the amazing sound design. Either way, it's another incredible film from David Fincher. So yay. As always, please be kind to each other out there. Don't just watch TV and movies, experience the level of detail in the Killer, either with 5.1 or Dolby Atmos or whatever. It deserves to be heard, hands down. And of course, always be listening.